So as beloved, praised, and celebrated as Godzilla Minus One was, it wasn't until today that we have the official news that yes, there is going to be a sequel made for Godzilla Minus One with the same director, Takashi Yamazaki. And I could not be more stoked for this. The idea of these two parallel Godzilla universes existing in the same time with the Toho movies and the MonsterVerse movies is just, it's a beautiful time to be a Godzilla fan. Yes, let's talk about Godzilla Minus One, the sequel that has just been greenlit. By the way, there's no official synopsis or information about it whatsoever. All we know right now, as of the recording of this video, who knows, by the time I get done recording this, more information could come out. But as of right now, all we know is, yes, it's going to happen. And yes, the same director as Godzilla Minus One is going to be leading the charge into the sequel, which is great news because he did such a fantastic job with that original film. And I don't do a lot of movie news update kind of videos, but I thought this one was important because, one, I'm just a massive Godzilla fan. And also, I think it's really fun to speculate different ideas about where Godzilla Minus One could go with its sequels because the door is so massively wide open. Not just because we've only had one film, so there's not a bunch of continuity to stay in line with, but there's just so many things that you could do here. You could continue the storyline of its main characters. The fact that it took place in the 1950s, you could still have it take place in the 1950s. You could jump forward to modern day. You could have it take place in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. The door is so wide open that the potential here gets me really, really excited for multiple things that could happen. So what I want to share with you guys are a few ideas of where I would like to see the sequel go, and then also hear from you guys what you think, or, you know, what kaiju Godzilla should fight, or should he not fight a kaiju? Should it continue with these characters? Should we get new characters? Let me know all of your thoughts and ideas about where you want to see the story go down below, but I'm going to share just a couple examples of what I would like to see moving forward. So my first initial thought is I would like to see it continue in the tone and style that we had with Godzilla Minus One, where it took itself very seriously and had Godzilla as the villain of the movie, or at least, you know, the prime antagonizing force. He's not the hero of mankind just yet, as he would become in later films. I like seeing Godzilla as this massive force of nature that seems unstoppable. I love, you know, Godzilla versus Mothra, the original, where Godzilla is just unstoppable. GMK, you can see the poster behind me. You know, I like Godzilla as a good guy too, but I really, really like seeing him as a bad guy. So I would like to see it continue in that tone, in that direction, and not go too wacky, too Godzilla versus Megalon just yet. Eventually, sure, but maybe not just yet. We got the MonsterVerse films for that side of Godzilla. So here are three different Godzilla enemies that I think would be a very good choice for a sequel to Minus One. The first one I'm going to go with is Anguirus, because this would call back to the original first Godzilla sequel, just as Godzilla Minus One is the closest that we've ever come to having a direct remake of the original Godzilla. Obviously, it's not a remake, but it's so close because it's in the same time period, it's in the same era, it's got the same kind of vibe, the same kind of tone. It's definitely a throwback to that first film in many, many different ways. And so I think it would be unique and interesting if Godzilla's first enemy in this new iteration was Anguirus. Also because we have not seen Anguirus for so long. He has not shown up in the MonsterVerse, minus like a skeleton of him underground. And we haven't seen him for a while, and I think he's a very underappreciated Godzilla villain. And I think if you gave him a bit of an upgrade, he could be a very intimidating opposing force for Godzilla. You know, I want to put more respect on the Anguirus name, and also Anguirus is more of a, I guess if you want to call it this when we're dealing with a series of giant monsters, a little bit more of a grounded enemy to fight. Like, he's not from outer space like Hedora, he's not some weird cyborg like Gigan, he's not Destroya, you know, he's just like a four-legged, spiky kaiju, and it would make more sense. It would feel a little bit more grounded, and I think you could ease us into more kaiju and more sequels and getting a little bit more outlandish as time goes on with a more grounded, simplistic kaiju for Godzilla to fight, and it would also be a nice throwback to the original first Godzilla enemy. My second idea for an enemy for Godzilla to fight, if they go in that direction, is going to be 100% biased because this is one of my favorite all-time Godzilla movies, but this is Bolante. So Bolante has only ever been in one Godzilla movie, and I think it's time she makes a comeback. It's been since 1989, the year of my birth. It's been a very long time, and I love this kaiju so much. I think it has a lot of unique areas to explore. You're dealing with like the hubris of mankind once again, going into scientific experimentations. You're dealing with the emotional side of it, because Bolante is sort of this mix of Godzilla DNA with plant DNA with human DNA, and it gets a little bit complicated, but it's a lot of fun to try to figure out along the way. They could definitely change up the origin story, and I've seen a lot of people theorize about the marks on is it Noriko? I think it's Noriko on her neck at the end of Godzilla Minus One, that she's maybe infected or has some sort of, disease that could eventually lead to the creation of something like Bolante, which would definitely be heavy science fiction, but I don't think it's too outside the box that it wouldn't make sense in the Godzilla Minus One universe so far. And I would just love to see a recreation of this monster, especially now with the updated special effects and everything. The puppetry is incredible in the original Godzilla vs. Bolante, but the fact that it's been so long since this kaiju has been around, the fact that you have a good lead-in with Noriko's character, and the fact that it would be coming from Godzilla himself. So again, if you wanted to have Godzilla be this unique entity in this universe, like it's not just flooded with kaiju everywhere, well, the fact that Bolante is created from Godzilla cells, it leads us into an easier explanation as to why another kaiju exists. So that would also be a really fun one to do. And my third one, I'm only mentioning this because the director of Godzilla Minus One has specifically mentioned this kaiju before, so I think it's likely that it would go in this direction, but that would be Hedora. Now, again, Hedora was in Final Wars a little bit, but really we haven't seen the extent of what Hedora can do since that original Godzilla vs. Hedora, Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster, which is a weird, wacky movie. Honestly, not one of my personal favorites of the series, but the monster, like Hedora, is very, very cool, being created from pollution and, all of the mistakes of mankind. So again, kind of going into that idea that mankind causes its own destruction, and it's just this giant, like, shape-shifting muck, disgusting monster that just pukes itself everywhere, causing massive devastation and pollution and, bacteria, and melts things. And again, with updated special effects, you could make that look really, really cool. I don't know exactly, like the other two, I feel like there's a very good lead-in into how those monsters could exist within the Godzilla Minus One world that we set up. Hedora is a little bit more of a stretch, but at the same time, I'm sure they could pull it off if they wanted to. But I think those three monsters would be the best next enemy for Godzilla to fight if they're going to go in that direction. We could see something extremely unique and keep this world completely kaiju free except for Godzilla, which has never really been done before. There's been Godzilla solo movies, but there's always been an enemy for Godzilla to fight afterwards, So to keep the entire universe being only Godzilla would be, I think, not as risky of a move as you would think. I think they could definitely do it, especially showing, what a great storyteller Takashi is. And you could also continue the storyline of its main characters, which is something that is rare in a Godzilla film. Most Godzilla movies have different main characters film to film. Sometimes a character will show up that's been in a previous Godzilla movie, but it's never really been done before that you have the same main character, the same main protagonist for multiple films. So there's a lot of unique different directions they could go with it. And as far as the Godzilla franchise is concerned, one of my favorite things about it is how different and how unique it is. You have the dark, serious movies, you have the silly, fun movies, you have the monster battle royales, you have the apocalyptic style movies, you got the Monsterverse doing its thing. There's so many different styles, different genres, different types of Godzilla movies. Sometimes Godzilla is the enemy, sometimes he's a hero of mankind, sometimes he's dancing around on a different planet. I don't know. Lots of weird things happen. So the potential, as I started this video, is endless, but those are the three main monsters I would like to see for a sequel. Obviously, there's other monsters I like, so much, like Ghidorah and Rodan and Mothra and all those characters, but they've been done so many times, and obviously, if they're in the movie, I'm going to be stoked about it. But because they've been done so many times, I think bringing Anguirus back, Bolante, or even Hedora would be a unique, different approach to take, which I would be down for. Also, you can't do like a Destroy All Monsters or a Destroya thing. It's too soon. I mean, eventually, yeah, but it's too soon right now. Anyways, what do you guys think about the sequel of Godzilla Minus One being created? What's it going to be called? Godzilla Minus Two? I don't know. I think it should just be a different subtitle, just Godzilla whatever, or Godzilla Versus. Go back to the Godzilla Versus. It's been a while. So let me know what you guys think down below. What monster would you like to see Godzilla fight, or what direction would you like to see the movie go in? Let me know all your thoughts, comments, and opinions. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Give the video a thumbs up and a comment. I'll talk to you next time.